All right. Well, I want to welcome everybody to the Empower Grief Journey podcast. I'm your host, Chris Mamoni, and I'm an acceptance coach that helps people heal from grief, loss, and trauma to discover their self acceptance and step into their personal power. This podcast is your dedicated space for healing, growth, and transformation. Each episode shares insightful and inspirational stories, along with practical tools, actionable insights to guide you along your healing journey. Together, we'll explore the hidden lessons and gifts and blessings inside grief and empower you to reclaim your life and create an inspiring future. Today, I want to introduce my first guest, Dwayne Morton. He's a powerful, inspirational speaker whose life story is a testament to the indomitable human spirit. As a former international basketball player, Dwayne understands the crucial role of mental performance in achieving greatness both on and off the court. Dwayne's true journey began when he faced unimaginable challenges. For 18 years, he battled with the misdiagnosed rare blood cancer, showcasing his unwavering resilience in the face of adversity. As if that wasn't enough, Dwayne was also a survivor of a police shooting, an experience that would have broken most people. Yet, through all of that, he held on to his faith, integrity, and authenticity, emerging stronger and more determined than ever. Today, Dwayne dedicates his life to inspiring athletes and high achievers to master their mindset, overcome adversity, and unlock their full potential. He firmly believes that obstacles don't define a person, it's their mindset that truly matters. Through these powerful speeches and workshops, Dwayne empowers his audience to rise above their challenges and achieve what seemingly is impossible. Dwayne, I want to welcome you on the show today.
Thanks for having me. And thanks for your listeners for giving me your time today. I think time is the most valuable commodity that we have. And so when people give me the time, whether they're watching on a replay in the morning, the afternoon or evening or night, like I just want them to know that it's from bottom of my heart, it's complete gratitude toward them. So I just want to thank them for taking that time away and listening to me share some stories. And then, Chris, man, thanks for having me on your platform, and thank you for your friendship.
Hey, you're very welcome, man. I'm really grateful that we got to met recently. Your story I found very inspiring. I talked to a lot of people and groups on Facebook, and you have just a very unique story, and you've had a very close call with death on two accounts, dealing with cancer and also dealing with the police shooting. So I'm really excited for my followers and my listeners to hear your story, not just about what you went through, but also your healing process and your grief journey through those two things. Because, there's a lot of people that don't get to experience cancer, and certainly most of us don't experience a shooting like that in our lifetime. So please, if you could, share your story with us. And then I really want to get into learning more about how you work through your healing process and kind of what that taught you along the way and what you've learned.
Yeah. So I think the best way to explain is the basketball part, to get to that part, to explain the challenges, but also to understand like where the mindset, where the resiliency and the persistence and determination came from. So I started playing basketball at the age of 4, and so it was when before the goals could be, uh, the height could be changed. So I was shooting on a 10-foot go with a men's basketball at the age of 4. And so for me, is I was shooting at the rim, but what I was doing, my goal was to hit the net to hit the rim to hit. Maybe it goes in, right? To then it started going in more and more and more. And that's where I fell in love with basketball. And so the basketball journey really is a love hate relationship. Like I was good. I was never the best player. And then how I got overseas was I didn't play my last 2 years of high school. So my path is completely different than anyone else's for the most part. And so I didn't play professionally. I went and played on a mission trip. I just made the best out of the opportunity that I was given. And I was lucky and fortunate to get hooked up with an agent. And then I hurt my knee. Um, but there's this one part of the story while I was overseas that I tell, and I'll briefly just tell because I mean, we want to get into the grief part. Um, but this is really the reason why I've been able to push through these challenges. I met this 5-year-old boy, and he had not eaten in 3 days. And yeah, and he had been eating rocks so his belly doesn't hurt. So just to let you guys understand is like that broke my heart, but it also gave me what I feel is my foundation or my core value of gratitude is that Other people are having things worse than what we are. And then the other part is our nightmares are some other people's dreams. And so for me, when I hurt my knee, my career was over. Challenge was like, well, life goes on, right? Same thing when I was diagnosed initially with the blood cancer. I was given 5 years, and so for me, I would decided, hey, I'm not gonna have a wife, not gonna have kids. Like I'm just not worried about those type of things. I'm more worried about like legacy type stuff of how could I help people to do other stuff, and do other projects. And lucky for me was I had a friend who's a physician, and he said it's about 15 years, Dwayne. He's like, it's about 15 years. It's like it's more than 5. So I at least knew I had a little bit of a window of opportunity. The shooting happened in 2022, and so I thought I would already be dead. That was what I was thinking because I got diagnosed in 2006. And so in 2022, it's May 16th, 2022, I was involved in a police shooting as a bystander. Now, this happened. It was a very tragic day that day. A police officer lost his life. Somehow, police missed a search. A criminal had a hidden gun. The criminal took the gun out, shot a cop. There was a shootout between the two, and the truck that I was driving by that day, a stray bullet hit. And if that C pillar's not here, I'm not here. So if it's an eighth of an inch to the left, it kills me. Eighth of an inch to the right, I have a 3-year-old niece that is in the back seat in her car seat. So, and then in 2024, it's actually it's going to be 3 days until it's, no, actually, so it'll be a month, on March 8th. So about a month, I found out I was medically misdiagnosed. And so, yeah, no, it still is crazy and insane and miraculous all at the same thing. But here's the thing, Chris, is like with miracles, man, whether they're big or small, they're still miracles to God. We put the size of them. Um, and so 2024 was just a healing journey for me, where I learned different healing modalities that helped me grow and heal at the same time. And so I'm really looking forward to how you can question it, but I feel like that's the best way is explain the whole journey, to explain how I got here. And then through that healing part, I realized, oh, there was something that I wanted when I was diagnosed that like I can now build, in which that is the show up to win part that I own right now, is that program, that coaching program.
So, share something with me about that process that you were for a long time there. It sounds like you were misdiagnosed with that blood cancer, and then all of a sudden you get this news that I wanted to ask you about that. Did they say, "Oh, you don't have that," or it's a different type of diagnosis? What came out of that moment for you when you got that news that you were misdiagnosed? How did that impact your mindset? 'Cause it sounds like you went from I may not be here in 5 years, and who knows, and now I'm focused on legacy. But when you got that news of misdiagnosis, how did that make you feel? Walk us through that thought process you had.
Yeah, so it's kind of ironic. I got a brand new doctor. He was my seventh doctor, by the way. So if you're all into like numbers and stuff, he was my seventh doctor that saw it. Um, he came in and he said, "This is going to be really hard for me and really hard for you." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, "I don't feel like you have this." He goes, "I believe you have either sleep apnea or COPD." And he was like, "Do you smoke?" I was like, "No." He's like, "Well, so it's more than likely sleep apnea." And I was thinking, like, man, are you sure? That's the first thing. So like God granted me a miracle. And the first thing I said was, "Are you sure?" And also I feel like I was in such a mindset of dealing with the police shooting because I was dealing with PTSD and survivor's guilt. And so I really that had been wrapped me up like the whole time. And so I really wasn't thinking about the diagnosis. I was thinking, why am I here? That doesn't make any sense. Like, why am I here? I was supposed to be dead I was supposed to be dead like a couple of years ago. So I never could understand that part. And so when he's told me that, man, my knees got weak. I mean, just like anything else, it was like, so when you get diagnosed, you take on that identity. So it's just like a prison sentence. Same thing. It was like I was free. I was like, okay, but I still was like, how? Like that was the thing. But then through the healing journey, the how part, I quit worrying about. How doesn't matter. It's more about allowing it to happen. And so that was part of the mindset though too, was just allow it. So I didn't go back and get a second opinion. I was like, I'm not going to go get a second opinion. Why? And so I went ahead and I went through the channels of getting the test for the sleep apnea, and I had severe sleep apnea. And so I had had a test prior, like in 2006, but it was a home test, and they didn't push for the sleep center test, which is kind of odd. If I must have not been as close at that time, but it makes scientific sense now, but it's still like I could have been healthy. I mean, like I could have the symptom that I was facing in 2006 could have been taken care of within a month or two. And so, yeah, no. And so, like, even
Wow.
when I was talking to the doctor, we were talking about different tests that I went through. And there's this one test, it's a bone marrow test. And he's like, how did you test? And I was like, well, I had less than a 1% chance of having cancer. He said, so that should let you know something right there. And he was like, you should have been let free 8, 9 years ago when I had that test. And so just to let people know, like I talked to attorneys, and attorneys were just like, look, you're going to spend $10 to get about $6 back. So if you want the accountability, it's worth it. But if you he's like, there's what's going to happen is you're not going to get any money. It's going to go to the insurance company because the insurance company was paying basically on a fraud account. So they'll get paid first. So there was no money there. So it was never like there was this justification or justice part. Like it would just been like it to me, it wasn't worth it. Not even from that standpoint. It was like my peace. My peace is like, hey, I'm just trying to heal. So in 2024, I was doing a healing journey. I didn't want to be brought in and going through all those court stuff. And so just to kind of let people know, because I get asked that all the time, is like, well, you're sure you're waiting on that big check. There is no big check. Same thing with a police shooting. There's no check coming. And so, what I'm able to do is I'm able to share these stories for other people to learn the lesson through me. And
That's
that's the
powerful.
most important thing, right?
So let me ask you this, because I've had moments of this in my life, and not to the level of degree you've gone through. So I wanted to ask you from your perspective, do you have any like any remorse, if you will, about that 8 or 9 year period where it was just basically a doctor misdiagnosed you? And do you ever have that like my life would be different kind of thing, or I wish it was? Or have you come to that place to say, I just accept the outcome, and had I not had this experience, I wouldn't be where I am today? What could you
Yeah, man.
elaborate on
So
that?
like, no, so like, there's parts where you go back there, but I mean, I'm so far past that now. Like, I mean, I'm just saying there was times where I was thinking that same time whenever I was getting through the 18 years of being diagnosed, I was meeting great relationships for businesses. Like, I met the person who's one of my mentors that I talk about all the time. Like, he was mentored by Jim Rohn. Like, why am I getting mentored by somebody like that? Like, that's what I'm trying to explain. Like, there was these points of emphasis where I'm just like, this does not make sense. Like, if I was just healthy, all of this stuff would be so much better. Now, there was so much of that. There was, but as far as like looking back, it goes to my morning routine. And really that's what kept me strong was this morning routine. And I'll share it. I have a PDF that you can give to your listeners. Uh, but it's called Dwayne's Daily Plan of Attack. And so it's these four things. The first thing I do every day is I thank God for that day. Thank you for waking me up. So my very first step is gratitude. My number two step is I played a lot of basketball. I'm beat up. I've had like two knee surgeries, so I just take time as soon as I wake up to just kind of stretch and just make sure that my body's ready for the day. So my second step is self-care. So my third step is I take these big I just when I put my steps on my feet on the ground, I think about left foot, right foot. because it's like it's really more my left knee, my right knee. I just want to make sure because I've had surgery on both of them. And so I think of it from a runner's mentality the rest of the day, left foot, right foot. And so this is one of the reasons why I went into my morning routine is I can't focus on the past because I'm not going to go anywhere. So I can glance at it. And so I do. I do glance at the past like everyone does. Like even Mr. Show Up to Win. Like I'm going to glance at it and just be like, "Oh yeah, because that's also what keeps you on where you learned your lessons, right?" But I don't sit there and I don't just dwell on the past because guess what? That makes us depressed. So I can't do that. So other thing is I can't focus on my destination either. So I can't have my eyes just okay, oh, sorry. Uh, I can't focus just on my destination because if I do, I go off track. I get out of direction. And so same thing is as you get anxious too. And so really, and it's the presence. They always talk about the present is the gift. So that's what I think about. I think about when I'm running, I'm only thinking about this next 10 to 20 feet. And so that step three is just movement. And so number four step is adaptability. So when you run, there's things that are going to come along the way. And so that could be potholes, that could be like, I don't know, tin cans, things like that. So life will throw stuff at you, right? Like life is going to throw you a haymaker, it's going to throw you a jab. And so really, and this is kind of how I felt with it was like I felt like I got punched in the face, kicked in the stomach, and then stomped out. That's how I felt like with the whole diagnosis. I was like, I'm pretty much done. But there's other things that we can do when we're adaptable is we can swerve around the potholes. And so maybe I don't take the direct hit. I just take it to a little bit to the left, a little to the right. But that's really what I'm doing. I'm just trying to swerve a little bit and miss the potholes or miss the uh the impact, like the most significant impact of just the pothole or whatever obstacle I'm facing. And so the number four step is adaptability. And so through that, I'm very mindful of I can't sit there and think about the past. Like I'm willing to talk about it in certain things. Like I'm willing to come here and talk about it on your podcast. I'm willing to come talk about it like in my book, but I'm really not, I don't want to stay in that negative connotation. And I also don't want to stay where I'm thinking, oh, well, if I did this, this would happen. Like if doesn't do anything for anyone. Like that's the thing. And so when we live with if or but, nothing really gets accomplished. So for me is like I want to accomplish stuff. And so I really don't think about it. So just to answer your question, yes, absolutely I thought about it. But I'm so past that right now is I look at it not from a victim mentality, and I did for a long time. I looked at it, and I can't believe this happened to me. So it's the woe me type thing too, right? But also, I looked at it probably about 4 months ago. This happened for me. Like, oh my gosh, like I wouldn't be able to talk about it on all these podcasts. I wouldn't be able, like, this person wouldn't know my name. I wouldn't have got to meet Eric Thomas. Like, there's all these type of things, right? But then, what someone who's really one of my really favorite mentors right now is Victoria Rader. And um, she told me, she said, no, this Dwayne, this happens through you. These are lessons that you took on. You were strong enough to take so other people can learn from your lesson and you share it. So I'm facilitating everything to people so they don't have to go through the things I did. And so for me, is when I focus on that, I'm not really worried about, like, I'm not upset at the doctors. I don't like, if I saw the doctor across the street, I'd probably go over and shake his hand and just say, hey, I just want to let you know I'm good. Like that's it. I don't want to, I don't have this ill will against any of it. Same thing with the police shooting. I don't have an ill will to any of that either. Like what I feel like, I feel there was some mistakes that were made and I believe in accountability. That's it. And if that is taken care of, then I'm good. And so I feel like if we, I can't ask for grace. I can't ask for grace if I'm not giving other people grace, right?
Mhm.
That's really the number one thing to take away from this whole podcast is the grace part. I can't ask for it if I'm not willing to give it.
That's really powerful because you're the first person I've heard share that perspective. So I just want to say thank you for that. Um, Something that you mentioned while I was listening to you talk about this last section, the thought about acceptance came over, and I'm a big person about acceptance, coach. And part of what I teach people on their grief and loss journeys is that acceptance doesn't mean you like it and you get over it. It doesn't mean you're just okay with what happened, but it's just taking things for what they are, not what you think they are. I wanted to ask you, in both those circumstances that you've gone through, was there a moment in time that you can remember that you got to that place of acceptance and what that felt like for you, and then just how that changed your belief systems and how that fostered your healing journey?
So the acceptance part, I feel, came after I was able to get some type of peace. So for me, the acceptance part was helped by going through hypnosis to make that trauma from a level 10 or level 9 to where it was neutral. So I wasn't having to always deal with it. Like right now, me and you can have this conversation, and as soon as this podcast's over, I could take a nap. Like in the past, I wouldn't do that. I would have been really upset afterwards. And I've been like, man, I can't believe that happened. Like it would get in my head. And so that's the thing is, even with someone with an extremely strong mindset and who had been mentored by some of the top people in the game, was still struggling because that's what happens. We get into our limiting beliefs. So my acceptance was, it was easier to accept when I was able to have some type of peace or calm with it. And so I think that's what I would tell the listeners is if there's something that you're struggling with, if there's a way for you to find that peace and calmness, the acceptance comes. It also comes through talking and going through coaching and going through mentoring or having a mentor. Like that type of stuff is what you've got to do. So for me, I went through traditional talk therapy and I'd done it twice before, and with the shooting, it just didn't work. And so I was like, I wasn't willing to go to talk therapy through the misdiagnosis. I was just like, I'm gonna sit here, talk about it, get upset having to drive there, get upset driving back, and that session doesn't really even help. And so I was very fortunate. One of my very good friends, Mr. Chuck DeBroder, he, me and him had a conversation, and he was like, I believe I can help you. I can guide you out of this. And so he guided me to this transformation. Like, so hypnosis is like how if I had all my life files in a file cabinet right behind me, and someone came inside my room and like jerked the file cabinet door open and grabbed the files and dumped them on the floor. And then all I did was pick them up and not organize them. And they're all disorganized. And all I did was pick them up, throw them back in the file cabinet. That's what we do every day when we go through traumatic situations. So you have to be able to allow your body to process it and also allow someone to guide you to organize the files again because your nervous system is so much in shock. And so for me, man, that was the game changer for me. And then that part led to like quantum healing. So acceptance for me was like there was a step one, there was a step two, but then I was able to hit the elevator floor to get to like where I am.
That's really powerful that you shared that. I think you said it really well, and it's a perspective I haven't quite hit on yet, but sharing that when you can find a level of peace with what's happened. And I think that's, I'll share really briefly. The trauma stuff I've gone through, I've struggled with that a lot personally, and I finally came to that place that you talked about, where when you do find that level of peace, again, it's not that you say it's okay and you forget about it and move on. You're just literally accepting that situation for exactly what it is, not what you think it is, and you're not taking those things on. You're just allowing yourself to be an observer of that situation. And I was going to ask you too, because I don't know much about hypnosis of any kind. I don't know much about that context, but if you could share a little bit more about that experience. I know you said it's kind of like somebody going there and dumping the files all over the floor and you reorganizing them. Is hypnosis something that is like a one session thing or 10 sessions? What was that experience like for you, and how did you see that progress unfold as you went through hypnosis?
Okay, so mine was like a one stop shop. but like I still do it because, but what I would say is like my first experience with hypnosis with Chuck was a recording. He gave me a recording and said, listen to this. This is on a Saturday night. And the hypnosis session was either on a Monday or a Tuesday. I can't remember. I can't recall which one. But what happened was I listened to the MP3 that he gave me. And this was just kind of to prepare myself. Like, so I was able to receive my most confident self, which is when I played basketball overseas. My my posture changed. Like, yeah, no, my posture changed. I sat center chair every time. My posture had always been like I was slouch all the time. I'm just saying, like I was it it made plenty of sense. I was hiding. And so when that was able to be unveiled, that's where, but the most significant change is how I walk. Like I learned how to walk by walking on my toes. I do not walk on my toes anymore. And so whenever I saw my mom the next morning, my mom told me, she was like, I feel like I have my son back. So out of everything,
Wow.
that's off of a recording. So there's levels to him to the hypnotist too, like right? Like how good they are. Like Chuck is a master hypnotist. Like he is a master. He people who are friends with him that know like Tony Robbins like, are part of Tony Robbins team, like see him as a peer. So that just kind of give you a little bit of like, hey, this guy is a top notch guy. And then that Monday or Tuesday, I met with him for a session. And one thing that is like, I used to be deathly afraid of snakes. And now I can observe one. I actually, that day, I observed one in the pond right by my house. Like normally I would have been creeped out. Like I would have got cold chills. And that's the thing is like, it allows you to be okay around the surroundings of the things that you're most uncomfortable. I mean, here's the thing. That snake in the pond isn't going to bite me from the pond, right? It's not, but like it didn't say, "Hey, Dwayne, go pick up the snake and try to like agitate it." It's possibly going to bite me then, right? But like I could observe it. It's not going to harm me from 100 feet away. Even get 20 feet away, it's really not going to harm me. And that's the thing is like our fear, and this is why hypnosis is really so works so well. Our fear is to protect us. And that's the thing is like if a bear came into this room, I'm in trouble. So I need to be able to react. But if a bear is like 200 yards away, I just need to observe it. And that's the thing is like, but when we were given these beliefs, these limited beliefs to keep us safe, it was more think about everything being simple like a caveman day, right? These were like true fears. Whenever, we didn't have public speaking. How many adults right now are if they were given a raise, would they be willing to get up in front of their colleagues and give a speech? Probably 10% of them would.
Yeah.
Like even given a raise, like a significant raise that they want, like they're not able to do it. Like they're scared to death. And it's to keep them safe because guess what? Back in the day, when we were like caveman tribe, you got to think it from a tribe perspective. If you were thrown out of a tribe, you pretty much were on your own and you couldn't do everything on your own, right? So that's the way you got to look at it. You got to understand the reason why certain things that we act and we react the way we do is to keep us safe, is our survival instincts. But our survival instincts, life and civilization got a lot more complex.
Yeah.
And that's really that's the issue. That's the issue. And so things like hypnosis and then like quantum healing that like I'm working with right now, like that's the things that like actually kind of give us that even type of circumstance. And so for me the hypnosis was I actually went to the go to the location of the shooting that week and shot a video for Eric Thomas, and I never gave it to him. I was so just to let you know, like I went to the location of shooting, the one that like I just did the Facebook Live like this week, and I'm doing this global press release video. I in May or June, I won't say it was the end of May, I went there for the very first time, and I was like, was it uncomfortable? Yes. Was it? I was scared that that event would happen again. I wasn't. I just was like, it just felt creepy.
Yeah,
Does that
that's
make
some.
sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Something I learned on I went through a lot of narcissistic abuse when I lost my son, that whole time. And something that I'm glad you said that going back into that environment can cause a lot of feelings. And I think a lot of people, um, it's hard for you to go back to certain places where you've experienced trauma because your brain, a lot of people don't understand your brain is not meant to make you happy. It doesn't know how to do that. So you have to teach it how to do it. And so your brain, though, is really wired to keep you safe. So if you put yourself, like you said, going back to the place of that shooting, the first thing your brain is thinking, is this going to happen again? Is there a threat here right now? Do I need to be concerned about this? Is it safe? Your brain goes to all those things automatic before you can even have a chance to think. And so it's really hard when you're going through trauma to relive. I mean, even to be able to look back on things and not necessarily relive it, but to tell your story about it and not have those feelings come up as harshly as they do. That's a very hard thing to do with trauma. I know on my trauma journey, I had to look up a book about CPTSD, complex PTSD, because I couldn't break thoughts of things that happened to me. I just couldn't do it. And I found out our brain will stay stuck in fight or flight mode in severe trauma. So things like you've experienced a shooting. For me, it was very verbal and emotional abuse from someone. And your brain just gets caught there. Like it doesn't want to let go of that experience because the trauma, sadly, is comfortable because the brain understands it and knows everything about it. But what's uncomfortable is learning how to move forward from that. And in a sense, I don't like saying this, but in a sense, letting go of the harshness of it. The brain doesn't know how to do that sometimes. So it gets very confused messaging, which is why it's very, very hard for us to break out of the trauma. It's very, very hard. I wanted to ask you about something you touched on when we started this podcast, because it's a question I've had from somebody that's actually gone through this worse than I have on a degree. You brought up with the shooting that you had PTSD and that loop of almost like a guilt and shame, if I remember right, the way you said it, of
Yeah, survival
surviving
guilt.
that. Are you willing to elaborate on that a little bit and just share that process and how you worked through that?
Yeah, I mean, so I'm willing to go there. So just to give you an idea, is the police officer that got tragically killed, he was a friend of like almost all my friends. Like I knew the guy, but I wasn't friends with him. But like one of my friends is best friends with him. So everybody thought I was okay because I was alive. That's the other part. And so other thing is that guy had a wife and two kids. I had said, "Hey, I'm not going to get married. I'm not going to have kids because I'm supposed to be dead." Like from the timetable I was given, I was supposed to be dead a year before that. So for me, the survivor's guilt was like, okay, I don't understand, why am I alive? So it really took the being misdiagnosed and being healthy part to really give me an understanding of like, okay, this is why all this stuff has happened, right? There was just all these questions of like, I don't understand. I can't understand why. And honestly, the other part of it was my niece was in the back seat. So that was the other part of it too, is that you have to understand that like I felt as a protector is what how I felt. Okay. I felt like as a protector. I I believe ownership is something that you have to do. And a lot of people don't do it. But for me, I feel like even in circumstances like this, there was two roads that I could have done. I could have went that day to the bank, which I did, or I could have went and got the ice cream. If I would have went to the got the ice cream, we don't have this, right? It was a choice I made. It was a decision. And so I've always told people when you make a decision, there's consequences, either good or bad. And I've said that 1,000 times before this. So I'm not a hypocrite. I believe in what I said. You know, I, our choices and decisions have consequences tied to them. That's what happened. And so I took that ownership of that decision. Now, did I make that decision knowing? No, but I've kept the ownership of my piece, the part that I was through. Like, and so that was part of it. Um, Survivor's guilt was the PTSD. Just to like to share, the very first day, I don't have one near me, so like, but a water bottle, like you know how when you push it and it like will pop.
Yeah.
I about broke my face, man, because a water bottle popped. That's how PTSD. I mean, that's how like I was. Yeah, so like I was playing PS5 one night, and I mean, that night I was just trying to just I forgot what I was playing like a racing car game or something. Like it was, I was like, hey, I'm trying to get away from anything with guns and stuff like that. Water bottle popped, and like I just got up and like I moved as quick as I could. I was just like, move real quick, and right here's a wall, and like right there in my face, like right into the wall,
Wow.
but almost knocked myself out. I mean, and so um, the next day, my little brother had just finished mowing his yard and went to hose off the loose grass off of the lawnmower. And dude, I thought I was like in Vietnam. I don't know. Like, I mean, because when he hit that water hose, like it just sounded like a bunch of gunfire. And I just dove into the grass. But
Yeah.
that's where my body was. That's where my nervous system was. It was in a state of protect at all costs, right? And so
And I
that's the
can,
thing, man, is like, so those two experiences, my body was just in that high frame of protection. And so same thing, I would have these nightmares at night. Uh, so I just quit going to sleep at night, man. I would stay up all night, and as soon as the sun went up, I go to sleep. So I mean, it was that bad. And I get them, but I knew other people were awake. So if I woke up screaming or something like that, I knew that like I wasn't gonna wake someone up from their sleep screaming.
yeah, I just want to say I appreciate you being willing, open, and vulnerable to share that with my audience today because I think PTSD is something I know that is becoming more talked about and more studied and more understood. But I do think it's important to share those stories about what that really is like for somebody and how your nervous system, like you said, it's stuck like way up here. And a lot of times, I've been through trauma, not in that capacity like you have, but trauma keeps us there sometimes because our body's just stuck in that fight or flight, and it's hard to get it out of that place. Which kind of leads me to my next question I want to ask you about. That's very big for my audience, especially in the lost community with people like me that have lost a stillborn. Um, when you sought out support, whether that was from friends or family, therapists, things like that, are there any kind of experiences, things that you would advise people to look out for when you're seeking support to heal from trauma? Was there some lessons you learned or some experiences you would change on that support journey?
So for the shooting, the very first day, I reached out to a friend of mine who did 3 tours in Iraq, and he was a Marine, by the way. Um, I reached out to him and I was like, "Hey, man," I was like, "How do you deal with like getting shot at?" And he was like, "Brother, I've never been shot at." So I was just like, "Oh, this is this is different." So just to give you an idea, sometimes when you go to advice and you're expecting advice from certain people, sometimes they don't have that experience. And that that was another thing. Um, and I'll go ahead and tell you, there's not a I didn't see a blueprint for dealing with misdiagnosis. Like I Googled it. There's a couple of people who talk about it, but they talk about it from like, different aspects. Like, and it's more of a victim mentality. And so for me, it's like I feel like that's part of my journey is to write something to be like, hey, this is how you deal with it. And so um for me, I would say this. There's two ways to go about whatever you're dealing with. There's what I would call a root cause way, and then I'd call there's just the regular symptom way. If you want to deal with the symptoms, then go through the regular Western medicine type stuff. Go to your local physician, get the prescription, get sent to talk therapy, and you probably have about a 50-50 chance of like coming out on the other side of it. But more than likely, you're probably going to have another symptom of something else. That's just how I feel. Or you can actually go to a root cause. It might actually cost a little bit more, but like it's more holistic way. Like I said, hypnosis for me, I feel is a game changer. There's other healing modalities that I believe in. Quantum healing is another one, which for me is like I know one of the most world renowned experts. So, of course I want to say her, but that's the thing, man, is like there's other type of stuff out there to actually get to the solution and not the symptom. Those root cause solutions. And so if you were dealing with like I'm dealing with, I would say go to hypnosis. Same thing. Like with you, talk therapy at some point, you're talked out. You're just
Yeah.
talked out, right? And so this is really a solution rather than to cover up the symptom. So I feel like that would be my advice, but I would pray about it. I would meditate on it. There's things that like you can do to get that peace and that calmness to do things like that because you're not aware. What I can tell you is my journey with hypnosis was not like what you see on TV. This wasn't where you take a watch and blah blah blah, right? And then there's such a bad vibe on hypnosis, and the reason why is they don't want everyone to do it. I mean, and that's part of it. Like, unfortunately, because guess what? There's this huge pharmaceutical company, these companies that make millions and millions, or, sorry, billions and billions of dollars, right? And that's the other part of this. So to answer your question, do what you feel is best. Your intuition's going to guide you, but like there is actual solutions rather than just I got to cover up the symptom. And so some people they want to go to their doctor and for me, man, like I even when I was in the where I was diagnosed, I put trust in other people. What I decided ever since the misdiagnosis is I trust myself. I trust my intuition, I trust my discernment, and I'm going to allow that to dictate where I go. But if I can handle the root cause of the issue, I'm going to go to the root cause and actually find the true solution to the problem.
Yeah, I think to elaborate on what you were discussing earlier, when I've gone through bouts of depression and when I went through the losses I went through, everybody said, "Oh, go to therapy or you need therapy." And I'll be honest, there's a time and a place for both. I don't see one or the other is bad necessarily. I see that therapy can be very helpful for you to revisit past issues and try to talk through them in a new light. Um, I myself found myself in therapy, and I got to a point where I just said, I'm just tired of reliving this, and I almost can't. Kind of like you said, like I could relive the shooting, I could relive this, but what's the point? I'll find myself upset. And that's when I got a coach at that point because I said it's just not working anymore. And coaching very much is about we'll acknowledge and talk about what happened, but it's all about moving forward and what can we learn and grow from through this to become better. And I used a combination of both just to share my story. I feel both were necessity for my healing journey, and both of them made a really good impact in me to this day. I wanted to ask you, since you brought it up a few times, quantum healing. What is this, and how did you stumble upon that? Did someone share that with you, or was it from your own research? Tell me a little bit about your journey with quantum healing.
Okay, so this is in my season of allow and not how. So I quit worrying about how things get done. And so I became friends with a quantum healing expert, and she was just a friend. And then the next thing I know, when I found out, like when I was doing things with her, it was like she had met this person. She knows Dr. Joe Vitale. She knows all these people. And I'm like, she's just my friend, but my friend is super supportive. That's the most important part. Is like she's my friend. Very first and foremost, like if I sorry, this is going to get emotional because I love her that much. I care about her that much, but I know she loves and cares about me. Nowhere in this time was she like ask me to do something that I wasn't willing to do, right? Like she never asked me. I brought the ideas to her. And so, but that was the reason that I went back to the shooting location last week was to shoot a video for them to show the testimonial for the app that they have. So quantum healing is the God part. So like when I go shoot a basketball, okay, I'm directing the shot by like my shot, right? Like my movement. Sorry, my mic's right here. I'm right-handed, but
It's
I'll do it
okay.
left-handed, right? And then but once the ball leaves my hand, the spin, that's the quantum healing part. That's the part, the movement part. And so that's the God part. Like, so just to let you know, is like when things they can't explain happen in the hospital, the doctor will write down it's a medical miracle. So even in our Western medicine, they still believe in miracles. So same thing. This is quantum healing is the energy part. And I I don't want to like go into it so much because of the how part. Because like I said, I don't really go into that. But what I can tell is that you can experience this. They actually have a global initiative they want 1 million users to use this app. It's called Empower Me. I'll give you the link so you listeners can download it. It's limited for the free version, but there's a full version for like $20. And like once you use it, you'll understand what it does. It's able to read your energy. So it uses biometrics and it tells you like the thing. It's basically like if I went to an eye doctor and I was scanned energetically and it told me my vision and it said, oh, your prescription's this. That's the way it works. So the thing that you need the most, this app is able to read. I mean, and so that's the thing is like this energy stuff's been around for a long time, Chris. It's just that a lot of us are not aware of the power of it. And so that's what quantum healing is. I mean, and that's the most basic part, you know. But that's you know, I'm so glad that my friend told me about it. And part of my healing journey, I'm not saying it like hit a ceiling, but there was just a part where it was like, this is as far as I could go. And then it was like with quantum healing, it's like I jumped so much.
So,
And so, yeah, no, I mean, and also when you find out your friend's like this world renowned expert, it's pretty crazy, but it's also like, wow, I can't believe my friend is like that important, but it's not importance. That's not a great word. It's just like when you, when you look at your friends as just your friends, and then you find out that they're just like really incredible human beings that other people see as very notable. This is different. I don't know how to explain it. It's because I'm from a love part of her too. Of like I'm just proud, right, of what she's able to do. She's actually going to be in a movie that sometime in February. Um, like Joe Vitale has a movie that's coming out, and she's going to be in it for a few minutes. So that's the thing is there's like I support her. I'm proud of her. And so I'm just that little bitty piece of her puzzle of how great, you know, of all the things she does of that, you know, but it's amazing, man, when you have people around you that are like that. And so it's like I told you, Chris, like I'm part of Jim Rohn's mentor tree. Like most people would be like, most people would know who Jim Rohn is when you talk about motivational speakers. And so when I can say that, it's kind of funny. I'm also a part of Victoria Raiders, like uh tree too. So that's the other thing. It's like these two world renowned experts. So
so let me, I know we're coming up on time here, and I want to ask you a last question before we get wrapped up with things. Um, you've demonstrated today that you've looked at a lot of different modalities for healing that are outside of the traditional norm, where people will say, just go to a doctor, just go to a therapist, just go to this person, take this drug, take this pill. You've explored these untraditional avenues for healing. What would you tell somebody that is like almost leery in a sense to go try those new modalities? What would advice would you give somebody that's reluctant to try that?
use your intention. Oh, sorry. use your intuition, use your discernment, do what works for you. That's it. Like I'm doing what works for me. I mean, so it goes into my program. Like I talk about my program's called Show Up to Win. I show up with intention, but also like I show up with like I'm tell people all the time, I'm willing to do what other people are unwilling to do. I was willing to do whatever I could to get me back on that path of like where I want to be. And I was willing to look into things that other people felt were either taboo or just they weren't familiar with. I was willing to do the homework. I was willing to say, okay, I like this, but I don't like this. So for me is um, I won't do something that's demonic. Like I don't believe in it. But like there's there's all kinds of witchcraft stuff. There's all kinds of this stuff that other people can say. So it's like there's some things I won't do and there's some things that other people will do. That's the thing is like I was willing to do what I felt other people were unwilling to do. I was willing to educate myself in the best manner with this, and what works for me might not work for you. And what might work for you doesn't work for me. And that's good. That's part of being a human being.
I agree with that. I want to wrap up the show by asking this question. You've had a lot of heavy life experiences, a misdiagnosis with cancer, going through a police shooting. What was the biggest gift or blessing that you would say came out of those circumstances for you? And how did that change you as a person?
The biggest gift is being able to tell the story and have the impact that I'm willing to have. My job is to inspire others so they're inspired to be more. Like
I love
that's the
that.
key, man. That's the key. So here's the thing. I'm not a spotlight person. Like I could care less. I could care less about awards. Awards, I don't do like it's about the journey for me. But also, if I have to go, I tell people all the time, Superman. Like I was way more want to be Clark Kent. I didn't want to be Superman, but like I could go rip off the suit, fly around the city, save a day, come back. But I want to just be sitting in the corner reading a book. Like that's where I like to be. I like to be kind of away from it. But what I had this lady who really poured into me one day, and she said, Dwayne, whether it's Clark Kent or Superman, Superman is he's the same. Like so Clark Kent sitting reading a book is still Superman. And
That's
so for
true.
me was that was the thing that like that was a switch where it was like, you're right, I can't ever get away from that part. Like so I might as well just do what I need to do to get other people. This is why we speak, man. This is why we speak. There might be somebody in that audience that truly, truly needs me. It's not a want, they truly, truly need me that day. It might save their life. It might make them where they're a better speaker than me. They might be better than Eric Thomas. They might be inspired to be better than Tony Robbins and Jim Rohn and all these people. That's why we speak. I don't speak for myself. Like I don't speak for myself. I never wanted to be a speaker. If I did, Chris, I was told when I was 20 years old, you would be a really great speaker. You should speak. And I was like, but I don't want to be a speaker. So I took the long journey to get to where I am now, where I could have just had the shortcut. I could have been doing this since I was 20 years old. But that's what happens. Life put me on track. All the shooting, the misdiagnosis, it got me on track to what my true gift is, and that's speaking.
Well, Dwayne, I just want to say I really appreciate you coming on my show today and sharing your story, sharing your gifts, your lessons, your blessings of what's come out of what could be defined as tragic moments of life, and to see you rise from those ashes and become the person you are today and giving back by sharing your experience and your knowledge. I can't thank you enough for that gift today. What I want to leave our listeners with, by the way, if you guys are looking to get in touch with Wayne or you want to talk with him or follow him, Wayne, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, so hopefully this showuptowin.com website will be up really soon. And that's with the number two. Right now I have it's called showuptowin.info. And so if you put your contact information in, and there's actually a place where you put your phone number in. If you put your phone number, I'll probably call and just to ask how I can assist you. But my social media link, the best way to reach me really is Facebook. I haven't even really built my other socials. I'm actually starting to do that this week. And I say that because 2024 was about healing. And then so far 2025 is just getting on as many podcasting guests and like just get people to know who I am, but also to share the stories in a different manner. But like that's the best way to reach me. And like, my program Show Up to Win is about showing up with intention, but I feel like I'm helping people overcome adversity in unlikely and untimely circumstances. And so that's the program. And so, but any way I can assist you, like please reach out. Please feel comfortable enough to know that you said, "Hey, I heard you on Chris's podcast." Like, reach out. Like, don't feel like, "Hey, you're a stranger." Like, no, like you probably have an issue and you're looking for a solution, and I probably have a solution for you. And so, like, please don't ever feel like you can't reach out. That's the thing.
I appreciate you saying that, Dwayne. Well, I'm going to let everybody know this has been a fantastic episode for the Empower Grief Journey. Dwayne, thank you so much again for sharing your story and all the lessons and gifts that you've shared with us today. I'm sure this is going to touch people in ways we can't even imagine right now. And it's also going to be helping some people that are going through similar challenges what you and I have faced on their journey in their life. So I really want to say thank you again. For everybody that's listening, by the way, this podcast is going to be on Podbean and also on my YouTube channel. So I'll be able to share a link with that on my Facebook platform. Other than that, stay tuned for some more episodes from the Empower Grief Journey. I'm going to see you guys next week.